Is what it is. So I think the first thing to get into is because I always start the show off with like um just covering like an indie project or something. And a while back I found your comic book, Relentlessly Bullied Hero, and I thought it looked fun. I thought it looked like something I would read. So you ended up finding my video that I cut out of my live stream, and from there we've ended up here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this project you've been working on?
Mhm. Well, as you can obviously tell, it's superhero based. Relentlessly Bullied Hero. It's basically following this one. He's called a new gen hero, as recently the Star Hero, which is like you can call it like a city's Superman, All Might, the Batman, basically like the most prominent hero, have
Mhm.
died a couple of months ago. And so a new generation of heroes started rising up to both kind of take his place and be inspired from it. And so the main character, his name is Zero, is one of these heroes that appeared during that time. And so as he's going around doing great stuff, largely so he ends up in a very binding deal with a villain. Her name's Gamora. And so now he can't get rid of her no matter what he does, not even if he wants to. So he's basically forced to continue his drive to be a great hero whilst he's basically following him around, screwing with him, messing with him, basically just being an all around bully because he's bored.
Yeah, very entertaining premise. Obviously, that was like one of the things reading through the Kickstarter, which I have pulled up here. Um, that like look, the artwork and stuff like caught my eye. The premise caught my eye. Reading the description of it, I was like, all right, this actually does seem like a pretty fun project. So I also noticed it says you were inspired by My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, some other like iconic classic superhero TV show stuff. So what I see in this is like as far as the My Hero Academia stuff goes, one of the big things I've noticed is like it kind of feels like reminiscent of the Vigilante arc, where like Deku goes off on his own and does his own thing.
Yeah, like I'd say that was a big inspiration. If you read All My Hero, you know that there was like different eras of herodom where it was like, okay, yeah, this when Crook first started, when things are more like a outlawless outlaw town where there's much more structure. Well, there were heroes, but it's not like the hero we currently think of. Then the more
Hmm.
reforming age, when All Might started coming to the picture. Then the current age where we start the series, and then of course once All Might retires, it's like a whole new thing. I say, yeah, this series take a big inspiration from that. Okay, what happens after the big guy goes away? How will society keep up? Because kind of like with a lot of things, if someone that big an inspiration go away, yeah, those people who try to take up the place, but that also means that there is going to be some degradation going on. And so some people who, it's not like they even all have to be bad people, but there's some people who just stop being as effective or heroic as they should and such. And so,
Hmm.
as
You
that going
have
on,
someone who is like a leader who kind of inspires everyone to be their best. And
yeah,
then
exactly.
everyone, once that person is out of the picture, things start to just sort of fall out of line because there was this one person holding things together. You see actually like a lot of that in comics where like they'll kill off or like quote unquote kill off a big hero and you'll sort of watch everything like fall apart because they were carrying so much weight in society. I think one of the best examples of that would be like the story The Death of Superman, where he
Yeah.
fights Day and then like they try to replace him with a bunch of clones and he's not actually dead and all that. And you kind of see how Metropolis and society as a whole like starts to fall apart as Superman is out of the picture. So this looks like a fairly different take. It kind of takes some of that, like the idea that you had a society like propped up by one person, takes a little bit of like vigilante Deku stuff and does a little bit of the cooler part of My Hero Academia, if you ask me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, for sure.
exciting to see. Plus, I mean, there's always a new way for someone to tell a story that you would never think of, and this is definitely a new take, something I wouldn't
Yeah,
expect.
I can't decide to start story here as I kind of feel like this usually part of the series, at least throughout most superhero media, are often like either it's skipped upon or undone or such. Because usually, the hero only stays dead for like an episode or two, and then immediately either something solves it or he comes
Mhm.
back to life. So I just think, yeah, why not just actually just put the story right there and
Yep.
see what we can do for it.
Why not have the story, like, start where, like, the hero's dead and they just don't come back?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
plus,
that's
it'd be a fun way to because then it leaves a lot of mystery about okay, how do we get there? How did the hero die? Was it just from old age? Was it something or and what happened? Because as I mentioned before, the story starts this one anyway, starts months after it. So of course there's a bunch of months between then and now where it's like, okay, a lot can happen that can form why things are such a way it is and such.
mhm. Yeah, so one other question I've had about it was, is this something, like, you were planning to or, like, you would think, okay, let me rephrase this. Is this something you went into thinking like, "Oh, I could do a couple installments of this, tell the story in sections," or was this something like you decided you were going to like test the water with, just put out one, see how people respond. If it doesn't do as well as you'd hoped, it would just kind of be the one off, and if it got traction, you would continue doing it.
I say it's kind of like a mix of both. Where it's like, yeah, I'll at least pull like one or four different issues, see how it goes. So I can. I don't want to just make one and then base everything off of just that one campaign because who knows, it might not even just be the story itself. Maybe it's just been how I market it or how I price the Kickstarter. So I usually like to give it like one or two to see how people like it. Of course, I have like a style of stories and stuff planned out in case I, see if it has potential, I can expand it. But I kind of like doing that. Okay, let me not go too deep into it immediately. So in case it's a flop or a hit a road, it's not like okay, I'm just completely dumping it. But there's
Mhm,
enough where it's like, hey, if people actually are really interested in it, and I can really push it, then yeah, you can easily look forward to it like having 20 plus issues and such, 20,
mhm,
30, depending on how I pace everything and
yeah.
such.
This kind of fits into an interesting niche that would make it a little bit easier to market because one, it's a comic book. It's something you can get into pretty easily. It's not like you're going to have to pick up a novel and sit there for a couple of hours and read it. This is something that's easy to read and easy to digest. Plus, it seems to be a lot more shonen, which is very popular. Was that like a calculated thing going for like the shonen genre, or was it just something that you liked?
Yeah, I say it's like both. Where like of course I was like greatly inspired by things like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach. So of course that always have like a big influence to what interests me to write and such. So it was
Hmm.
like kind of a bit of both. It's also why I kind of made the story be the way it is, because that way I can market it in two different ways. So like in more long time form, there's a whole as I mentioned, it's a post death of the star hero role and all that complicated stuff and on a more simpler end, it's hey, here's this one interesting hero villain dynamic where the hero can't get rid of the villain, you just want to mess with him. And so it makes it easier. So if I had an ad, well, it can only, advertise or speak for like 10, 15, 30 seconds. I could easily just do like, oh, well, yeah, let me just toss this at you. But then if there are people who are more interested for like a little bit of a longer explanation, that's why I can go to all that detail.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I tend to be attracted to like the I don't I generally just call it weird fiction stuff like Don Dodon and all of that that comes at you with this just out there premise, something you never would have heard of because that's the kind of stuff like that really like catches my attention. You get these really weird premises or you just get something that's completely creative and new. Like the idea of this like being just like the main character wants to be a hero, but his biggest nemesis is the person who just wants to tease him because she's bored. That in and of itself was like the creative take that really got me to look at this. I guess, yeah, as far as like carrying it into long form content, starting easy and just like, getting the story established, a good way to sort of like slow roll into like a bigger story if you really want to do something like really shonen-esque. Like if you really wanted to go for that Naruto or My Hero Academia storyline that, goes through this whole big arc and ends with a climactic battle against a villain. That's something you could do. Or if you just wanted to make this like just a fun series where you have Grimoire, Bully, Zeal the whole way through and just over like some like episodic sort of storytelling the way Batman the Animated Series did things where every installment is just like a chapter that doesn't really have an end goal, but every time it's something like a sort of self-contained adventure, I guess I would say.
Yeah, yeah, like for sure. Like that's always been a thought. As I'm kind of like even right now, I'm still always debating because there are like some story beats, but I'm always just like, okay, so I put it here, or so I leave it a little bit down the line, and then between then and there, so I put in a little bit more episodic stories that's not really like a continuous plot, but it's just like okay, them dealing with the different aspects and such. And it's always just kind of like and it's kind of like why I'm happy that I'm actually am starting. As the more I start and continue, it get better sense of sensing. Okay, what works, what do people like, what doesn't like, then fully marking out the plan.
Yeah, so
And
that is basically like the whole idea, like the Relentless Bullied hero. I like it. I like the artwork so far from what like you've shown in the campaign of like the storytelling and stuff. Um it's got me really interested, and I'm hoping you do get your funding for that. But moving on to that, I noticed you put up um a notification for like another project you're working on. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that one too? The
oh yeah, so the second one that's Stormwell Riders. So similar to Relentlessly Bully here number one, it is inspired by Sonen. Have you ever heard of a anime called Airgill?
Hmm, I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar.
Well, no problem. It's also inspired by stuff like Jet Set Radio and yeah, those kind of stuff. And basically they're just both of those anime are basically just like think of the Liquid movies was all about different gangs and groups and stuff, battling it out to have control of
Hmm.
the streets, but Don roller skates. So this is basically just like my take in that genre niche. And of course, very heavily anime inspired. So there's a lot of I'll say craziness. Craziness, Dom doing more
Mhm.
than you expect people to do, that kind of stuff.
That's one of the things like I think that has made shonen like the genre you're kind of breaking into here so popular is that there's a lot of just like fun about it. So like you go into something like Naruto or Hunter x Hunter and you kind of like there's a lot of just like goofy stuff that they get up to. Like we talk about the filler episodes of Naruto, which I never really cared for, but they did some goofy things. Like there was one episode about like chasing an ostrich down, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah, that was
Or
great.
like Hunter x Hunter, just overall being like the aesthetic looks so childish all the time, but like you get in the storytelling of it, it's very, very dark at times too. Um, which is interesting because again, shonen always tends to have that aspect of like fun and humor to it. Which makes it like easy most of the time to get into. I see a lot of that in like the projects here. It's just fun is the vibe I get from it. Like it's just gonna be something that's entertaining, whether or not it has some like like really impactful, life-changing story. Well, that will remain to be seen until like way later. But for now, it just looks fun, which is, why I personally backed the project. I thought it was going to be something entertaining, something I would read. And again, like I did in the last video, in the last indie comic highlight, I would encourage people to, go check out the campaign Relentlessly Bullied Hero on Kickstarter. As of the time of this little interview here, there is still 7 days left. And there's also the Storm Rail Riders, I think it was.
Yep. Yeah, like you
Storm
said,
Rail
like,
Riders,
keep it
that's
fun.
coming later this year if I have that correct. Something that's not quite up for crowdfunding yet, but will be in the next couple of months. I think it was like what, April, May or something that it goes live.
Yeah, around those time. But yeah, like
Yeah.
you mentioned before, that's what's kind of like my goal for like these stories. While always just, like so many times I feel like people tend to focus a little bit too much about trying to create the next, Lord of the Rings or Star Wars series to where they kind of forget like the best part about these things is that they're fun. You can pick them up, enjoy them, and have a good old time. But so yeah, that was kind of my goal. Was like, okay, brings the fun back to reading the story to where it's like, if you want to like read Stormware Waters, you don't have to always just go like, oh yeah, I'm reading this because it's the most deep psychedelic story about the human mind. Was like, yeah, it could have those elements, but also you want to see the guy do like some sick tricks upside down, and then see him possibly, I can't confirm, kick a guy through a window or a song with hook chains, grab on stuff and that stuff. Just that sense of,
Mhm.
yeah, this why I read it. Can this make me feel happy? Something was like I just got back from home and yeah, let me just see that fight or that race again and just see how they did it. And
Yeah,
I feel like
there's
if we got back.
what you're talking about really is just escapism, the thing you go to, not to like the thing you go to just get away from the world, and that's really all a good piece of fiction needs to be. So I it makes me happy to hear you're taking this like you're looking at this more from the aspect of just entertainment and escapism, of making something that people can enjoy, because those kinds of like people who approach telling stories like that generally tend to have the most like fun stories. Again, may not be the most meaningful thing, but like you said, not everything needs to be the next Lord of the Rings or the next Star Wars. It just needs to be fun and entertaining, something people can enjoy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people miss is that not all those series always ended up as this grand, deep, deep stuff. Like even stuff like Naruto, that literally started as ninjas. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of lore about tail beasts and stuff, but yeah, at the beginning it was basically about ninjas and then what they do, and then it just slowly steep in all that extra deep stuff. Same with stuff like Dragon Ball, Bleach, and other stuff. So it's not like I feel like a lot of people have an issue to where like they want to always be seen as elitist no matter what, that they are too afraid to just actually enjoy media. And so instead of just, enjoying something because it's entertaining, they always had to try to like overly justify it, going like, oh no, this is actually like the most deepest thought piece ever. It was like, I don't doubt it that, a lot of these things do have like some deep or introspective meaning in them, but like, goddamn, like chill. And it's kind of funny, 'cause, like that kind of personality of always being hyper intense and serious about everything is kind of like what the main character of Relentlessly Bully Hero is Zero, where it's like, yeah, if you read the Kickstarter, you know that he's classified as a edgelord, so it's always a little bit dramatic and over the top of things. And that's how I make fun of everything. I just thought that'd be fun, and that's also why I made Gamora the way she is, as as an indie creator. I don't even have that much of a following and such. It's gonna be a little bit hard, mock me above, going like, hey, just follow this edgelord. So of course you're gonna need something to help just oppose his
Mhm.
existence. And what better way than, well, there's a villain, she's hot, and she mocks him. And, exactly.
Hey, I mean, It got the attention of enough people to almost get the whole project funded so far. So, I mean, it's worked out pretty well thus far. Again, I like it. I'm looking forward to it. We'll probably end up I'll leave that thought there, that incoherent little bit of rambling there. But yes, so Relentlessly Bullied Hero. It's fun. There's also Stormrail Riders coming later. You guys can all go check those out. You have the names now. And just here at the end, I want to give a real quick shout out to HeroDarkyDark for again giving me some of his time and coming on to talk about this project. As of the time of the posting of this video, there should still be about 3 days left on the campaign. So, if you're seeing this within the first 3 days of it getting posted and you're interested in the project, I will have the link down in the description and you can find it there. Otherwise, I hope you have a good one, and thanks for tuning in and watching this.